This episode is brought to you by Hims. Stay tuned for more information later in the show.
Welcome to the Death Battle cast. We are the cast and crew of Death Battle. I'm Ben, the voice of Wizard.
Oh,
my full name.
Very formal.
Full name.
Getting
Go
professional
formal.
here.
Who's next? Who you want?
Below me. Let's go with the guy below me.
I'm sorry. What? No. Hey, I'm Chad. I'm the voice of Boomstick.
And
then
then
we've
I'm
got,
Sam, and then we can toss it up above me.
I'm the voice of Ringmaster, Billy Burston. Hey, how's it going?
What's up,
Hey,
Billy?
Billy. How are you
It's
today?
awesome to have you here.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
I think this is the first time we've seen into your room.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was much more plain before I realized I was going to be in here for months, so I had to put stuff on the walls.
So you judged it all up?
Exactly.
All of this is new.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I had it.
All right.
But
So we obviously have a special episode of Death Battle Cast today because of what's going on with Death Battle in DBX right now. But before we get into the big nerdy conversation that everybody is here for, I do really quick just want to address something regarding the Black Lives Matter movement and the murder of George Floyd, just because it's what's going on right now, and I think it is important that we all say something about it. Because even though this show is obviously not really meant to be, it's meant to be a form of escapism, right, through ridiculous, nerdy debates and whatnot. But you can only escape from reality so far before it becomes delusion. And the topic of racism is something that needs to be discussed. In fact, whenever it's come up on the show before in the past, like I've said something along the lines of 4 white men sitting around aren't going to solve this problem, so let's move on, something like that. And while I guess there is some truth to that, I've realized that it is the wrong thing to say, and that I've realized it's basically actually an excuse to not talk about something that's important, the injustices that are right in front of us, and that's wrong. At this point, it is abundantly clear that if we don't talk about it, then nothing will ever change. So while we will be continuing this Death Battle Cast episode as normal, don't worry, we are getting to the ridiculous, nerdy stuff. It is important to ensure that when the normalcy in the world does return, it's a new normal. What's happening right now isn't random. People are protesting for a good, just cause, and they need to be listened to. While the riots, which should be considered separate from the protests, are not ideal, anyone who doesn't understand why they're happening should take the time to learn why. If a man taking a knee in protest to police brutality can have the entire country turn against him, then what does that say to people about peaceful protest? So let's make sure that the new normal is one where we can all put aside our own ignorance and listen, empathize, learn, and understand one another. Simple as that. That is a step that I think everyone needs to take, even if they believe they have already. And that's that. So that's the heavy topic. Let's get into
Nerdy
some nerdy
shit.
shit. Unless any of you have anything you want to say on the topic.
I think you did a great job. Other than,
Yeah.
educate yourselves. And if you want to support, there's a lot of ways to do it. And so educate yourself on how you can do that and find what best way to support works for you.
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So we've got it's so weird transitioning from something that's,
Very
really
serious.
and, important to the world to something as unimportant and ridiculous as a death battle. But let's go ahead and force that transition here to talk about the latest death battle that just came out, She-Ra versus Wonder Woman, an episode that has been highly requested for a very long time. I think since the beginning of the show, it's been one of the highest requests for a superhero matchup, and it's definitely one that I've always intended us to cover at some point. But there were other Wonder Woman matchups, obviously, that in particular, Wonder Woman versus Thor was one that I knew like we kind of had to do first, right? Like because that's like the Wonder Woman matchup, the Marvel versus DC matchup. So now we're into the weirder one, which is the crazy Princess of Power from the 80s,
Which
where
is the one that
logic
I
did
wanted
not
to do
exist,
from the
apparently.
beginning.
So we do have the Q&A. We are back to our usual schedule. I know the last couple Death Metal casts we've been like back and forth with Q&A because we had like Butch Hartman on and
Yeah, we've had a lot
crazy
going on.
stuff was happening. But we're back to normal, I guess. We're back to the usual thing. So, Sam, you were the writer for this episode. Thanks for doing
Yes,
that. by
I
the way.
was. Yeah.
Tis I.
So-
was- sorry.
I was actually the accidental writer for it because due to circumstances, it was kind of last minute. It was like, oh no, somebody needs to write this, and I was like, I'll do it, I guess. I haven't
it's
done one in
also
a while, but
because
sure.
it also helped because you've researched Wonder Woman before, so
Yeah. Although to be fair, it was like 3 years ago, so it's pretty much a fresh dive again. But I was like, I'd be going through, I'm like, yeah, I remember that. Yep, still crazy. Okay,
hey, it's not fairy tale, so
yeah. I Wonder Woman's a pretty fucking big character. to
that's
go
true.
through.
That's true.
Yeah, she's got 80 years or whatnot of content to go through. I mean, of course, people are asking like, are we using pre-crisis included in this? And obviously, no, that's not how the rules of Death Battle work. We stick to. I know DC is in a confusing place right now because they've had like 4 reboots in the last 10 years, essentially. But the latest reboot basically combines everything except for pre-crisis into one entity. So no, we can't really say, oh, we're using New 52 Wonder Woman. We're not using post-crisis Wonder Woman. We're using everything. I mean, technically, I guess we are using post-crisis Wonder Woman. It's just that everything that happened after Flashpoint is now back in with post-crisis because Flashpoint kind of sucked, basically.
I don't like hate Flashpoint at all. I think
No, there's some
Flashpoint,
good
especially
stuff.
the animated movie, is pretty great. But it does have some slightly problematic storytelling vibes to it. The fact that they were just like, it works for some, it doesn't. Yeah, and the way they redo that because they have her as like kind of like from like a really brutal Amazon, like where it's like all like they're like warriors about war and shit, and then she like has to remember that that's not actually where she's from, even though she is from there, but she's not. It's like it's real.
And then like Batman didn't even get a reset. It was like, oh, all the post-crisis stuff still technically happened. It just all got scrunched into 4 years or something like that. Yeah.
And they're like, we're gonna reset Batman, and then he was like, no. It's like, okay,
but we can't get rid of Nightwing, Red Hood, and Tim Drake. So it all happened anyway. Yeah, it was messy. But that's comic books for you. It's a messy storytelling medium, and it always will be if we have these giant multiverses of characters. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the questions because we got to get into DBX as well. I mean, Billy's here, right?
yeah.
We need to chat
Well,
with
Billy actually did work on Wonder Woman as well. You did a lot of like lighting and stuff for Wonder Woman. Yeah,
I was
Billy?
helping Christina out with that, and I want to send a big shout out to Christina because she was wrangling that episode. It looked super pretty. The the lighting and
I think I said it last week before the preview, but I think as far as like a fight animation, this is my favorite one we've ever done, hands down. Like I think it is the best one. But yeah, so
Yes.
You want to dive right into these questions?
Sure. Well, though, really quick on that topic, I do want to say this animation was headed up by Christina, who's been working on Death Battles for a while, and obviously Ruby and Genlock and whatnot.
It's so pretty.
A lot of people always kind of look to the animator lead. The animation lead is like the person who made that fight the way it is. And while they obviously have a huge part in it, I do want to shout out to all the people who are working on the models, the viz posts, like Billy, and making it look as good as it is. It's not as simple as one person just pushing buttons to move a character around. We have a team of people, and they are all incredible at what they do.
Absolutely.
So thank you for helping
We're helping her out. That's like 3 people for that huge fight.
Thank you for helping make it as pretty as it is.
Animators were Tina, Hannah, Matt Dury. We had like, and it was a whole team. It comes together to make this. Like this was a lot of people involved in this one. I don't know who did the models necessarily, but they were done in house. They're all fantastic. Like, yeah, it was a lot. We've
come a very long way from having one animator tackle everything from start to finish and working themselves to the bone. And that's been a goal of ours forever. And it's so nice to see where we're at.
It looks like, Billy, you're mentioning in the chat that there's a bit of a audio issue coming from you.
Yeah. I was actually about to bring that up. So your mic's crackling super hard. At the very least, I'm going to do our post show or our VOD show listeners a solid. Can you open up Audacity and start recording your mic so that we can drop that in later,
just in case?
Weird, because it was just fine. You might just refresh your vMix tab as well.
We can try that too, but let's get that recorded so we can replace this for if you guys are watching this on the show.
So while Billy is setting that up and refreshing his feed, we can jump into the questions. Since Sam
is going to read them,
you have the
I have them pulled up right now.
Read them
if you want? Yeah,
cool.
Look at that. He's prepared, ready to go.
Number one, actually not on this episode, but still a general Death Battle question. You say the best way to submit Death Battle requests is through the request form, but it only allows suggestions for up to one-on-one fights, right? So making it impossible to suggest a battle royale or like a 2v2 or something like that. So do you have any plans to address this issue?
Yes. Yeah. You can game the system by putting multiple names in one box.
I mean, technically you could. We've talked about this online, I think, but not really on this show. I mean, battle royales and 2v2s. I mean, have you seen how many of those we've done? We haven't done a whole lot, for a good reason. Those are very difficult to do and take a lot of time. The worry about doing a battle royale is that if we do it, it could mean that we will have less episodes across the year. And we are, as we will talk about, with how Death Battle is working this year, we have been striving to make more episodes across a single year. So that has been a major goal of ours, so that we can get to as many matchups as possible and also keep a consistent quality. But that doesn't mean battle royales are off the table. It's just that they're a little trickier for us to do. And when we are going to do a battle royale, we're going to try to make sure we do one that is like really, really worth our time on. The best way to suggest a battle royale is to talk about it publicly, because it's less about the individual responses and more about, I want to see the conversation around it. If people respond to you talking about a battle royale, and if people are talking about it, then we will see it. Like we see comments, we see the Twitter posts, like we see those. So while the suggestion form is the best way to get your individual matchup like zeroed in on us, we do see these discussions. So that's the best way to talk about it. Sorry, Chad, did you have something you want to say?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like you say it's tricky, and just to elaborate, like, the goal of this show is that, I mean, despite what some people say, look, we don't put any personal bias into the show whatsoever. Our sole going into every single episode is we want to know, like, who would win in this fight to the death. And when you get multiple characters involved, it gets very, very tricky, and it gets harder to do that, especially if they have no knowledge of each other, because then we're starting to make the decisions of like, but what if this person attacked first? And so it's like, oh, well, shit. So like, it brings another element. It makes it really hard. And that's why, like, a lot of the battle royales that we've done, like, for example, TMNT, that was better because they all have existing knowledge of each other, and we can then determine how they interact with each other. And like, that was much easier to determine, like, oh, who would strike first? Oh, we see because of this. So like, it's very, very complicated. And it's not to say it's off the table, but it takes a lot more work, and it also needs to be like the right scenario. Because we don't want to ever be like push who we think would win, like who we want to win. Like
it adds a lot of new variables into it that just stack up against everything else we're already working with, which add to more time. Not to mention the fact that we're animating potentially twice, if not 4 times as many characters as normal, and we're modeling all those characters and building sprites, whatever we have to do. There's just more time that needs to be spent on it, which can become a problem. That's basically
you remember, like, with the Pokemon Battle Royale, Ben? Do you remember when I went through, what did I do? I ran, like, I just remember going through and putting a bunch of stats together, and like, I remember just having like a sim of like how things went between all of them clashing in all these different ways, and then we came up with like, oh, and then at the end of it, it's like, oh, actually, like, it was Blastoise, right? Like, actually won the most out of like all these sim scenarios.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time taking all their different moves and like doing a cross charts basically of what like how each battle could potentially go through. We went through so many different scenarios for that. It took a very long time. But one of the biggest, most difficult parts about it was figuring out who would actually. I believe Charizard was fastest, so we were like, "Oh yeah, Charizard is going to get the first attack off." But who does it actually target?
Right, I remember, God, we talked so long. Like, well, what happens if he hits Blastoise first? What happens if he hits Venusaur first? And then like,
and so we had to then go through that personality. Essentially, we went through Charizard's personality and like what we have seen Charizard do in the anime to figure out that he would attack Blastoise first, if I recall correctly, because of his. It's been a long time since that episode, but I believe the general idea was like Charizard likes a challenge and will challenge the one that is stronger than it, so it would target Blastoise because
Blastoise I remember
is stronger than that kind of thing.
Okay, I remember just the branching paths were insane because it was like, if Charizard attacks Blastoise first, then how would he respond? Then if he does Venusaur first, how does that? And like we did that for like all the scenarios, and it got wild. Anyway,
it's confusing, which is why it's hard to do battle royales. On another note, you said like sometimes a lot we see conversations about like fights and how they happen and stuff, and that is important to us as well. I just wanted to say to anyone, if you want to get dirty nerdy and like Twitter isn't your favorite place, there is a Death Battle community Discord. Like, so if you want to go talk with other nerds that want to have that debate with you, that's probably a good thing to go check out.
If they want to get just dirty nerdy but not with the birdie, they should go to the
Discord. Yes. If they want to get dirty nerdy without the birdie, go to the community Discord. It's a pretty fun place that I definitely never lurk.
Before we jump into the rest of the questions, I will say we are about to spoil the She-Ra versus Wonder Woman episode. So if you have not seen it, you should go watch it because we're about to spoil who wins. Like I think literally in the next question.
Yeah.
So here we go.
So yeah, He-Man fought Superman, and She-Ra is He-Man's equal, and Superman is on par or even stronger than Wonder Woman. By that logic, shouldn't She-Ra have won?
Well, chaining ideas together like that, I see every so often, but like connecting threads in your head and whatnot. We have a tab actually in the episode that sort of addresses this, but long story short, He-Man only really is able to stand up to Superman because He-Man is powered by magic, and Superman has no defenses against magic, so He-Man becomes a bigger threat. Yeah, that's putting in really brief terms, but that's the basic gist of it. We can move on.
Wonder Woman generally goes on toe to toe with Superman too, right? Like,
yeah.
Yes, and I would go as far as my personal opinion to say that Wonder Woman would most likely win in a fight against Superman. But that's another conversation. You messed up She-Ra's moon feat. You're ignoring that it's much smaller than our moon. This is proven because Eternia and Etheria and Eternia, which is that those two being like the exact same word, killed me when writing the script. Like we went over it like 7 times, being like, "Did we fuck up any of the Eternias?" Like. But yeah, they orbit each other and don't pull each other apart. That would mean that Eternia Etheria must have a really super small moon. Yeah, that's not how that works, really.
Yeah, there's a misconception that I think there might have been some comics that might have kind of confused how Etheria I'm doing it now how Eternia and Etheria are positioned in space. They're not orbiting each other. They actually orbit the same sun in the same orbit path, and they're on opposite sides of the sun. It's that parallel universe sort of thing, and it's crazy, super coincidental that it just so happens to line up that way, but they are orbiting the same sun, not each other. And it is specifically stated that Eternia has 2 small moons, but Etheria has a large moon. And just based on the descriptions of the moon, it seems like the best way we can kind of, I mean, there is a little bit of assumption to it, but like we have to assume that the moon is similar to something like our own moon in order for all of this shit to make sense.
They're using, essentially their planet is kind of like an Earth allegory, so it's pretty reasonable to put it in that, like, yeah, it's pretty much our moon. Next one, though. Why didn't you use the new Netflix She-Ra? Did you kill She-Ra to say that you hate the reboot? No, the reboot, I would go as far to say is that, and I haven't seen the newest season of the reboot, but the reboot is
fucking
better than any of the content from old She-Ra or anytime Wonder Woman. I would go to say that the new She-Ra show is probably the best bit of content from either of these franchises.
Dude, so Kira had started
Wonder Woman has got some good moments, but
I re-put it on to be like, this is the time, like it's early in the morning, I'm trying to like watch the kids while also like slightly just like still dozing, and like I couldn't even like close my eyes because I'm like, fuck, this show is so good. Like I was like so invested in it.
It's really good.
You got to the point, new She-Ra is excellent, and I highly recommend it, especially the last season is phenomenal. We talked a little bit about this in the last and I
haven't seen that yet, but Kira's there.
It just gets better and better.
But now I haven't watched all of it. And now, like, man, I saw one that was like clearly some shit was going down, and like Kira had gone outside and just left it playing, and I ran and was like, no, and I stopped the TV because I didn't want to have anything spoiled.
Well, another thing to say to that though is like, from once again, I haven't seen the new season. It is a very different She-Ra in like there is not that Hanna-Barbera ridiculous power strength thing where she scoops up a fucking lake. Like, you know,
it doesn't have the Filmation effect. Though I will say, just to put a bow on this question, the main reason we did not use new She-Ra is because in season 4 and 5 especially deal with this. So I don't really want to talk about it too much because it can get into spoilers. Essentially, new She-Ra's powers come from a different place. The powers work differently, as Sam mentioned. So there's too many differences in simply not even just the story and the world, in the character itself. And typically what we do, based on our rules, what we do with Death Battles, we pick a main source, right? Which should be like the primary source. So for She-Ra, it would be like the original cartoon. And then if we're going to use any other sources, it has to essentially be the same character in a different environment, like an Elseworld story. Because if the character is different in that other story, then they wouldn't be able to do what the character does in the main story, right? So that's why we use some outside sources as supporting evidence. But if it is too conflicting with the main source material, then we have to ignore it for this death battle in particular. But no, She-Ra versus Wonder Woman came out around the same time as She-Ra season 5. It was also supposed to be the Wonder Woman movie, which is why we did this, because it was like, both of them are coming out, so this will work out perfectly. The Wonder Woman movie didn't, because the world's on fire. But it was not obviously specifically designed to target one character and murder them. Death Battle's never been about targeting a fan base or a franchise specifically in a way that can like degrade them or make them less important to people. No, the show's not about that. All right, I think that covers everything. We can move on to the next one.
Celebration of characters,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Why did you ignore the Starseed feat? The Starseed threatened all of creation, and He-Man destroyed it. That makes him multiversal, and She-Ra scales to him.
I saw a lot of people talking about this.
Yeah, me too.
So we did put a tab up on this. So this feat technically happened after we finished writing the battle. It occurred in a more recent comic book, which kind of freaked me out for a minute because I was like, oh shit. Is there a way that She-Ra should actually, or is there proof that She-Ra should actually win and it came out after we have decided this matchup? Do we have to go back and change everything last minute? But then I looked into it, and it's not quite as clear cut as that. The Starseed is it essentially contains energy that can threaten all of creation, but the problem. So first of all, Wonder Woman has broken, as we say in the tab, Kronos' scepter, which also contains a force that is multiversal, the God Wave. So technically, she has a feat that matches what He-Man did. He-Man. In both cases, it's unlikely that the vessel containing the energy is honestly as powerful or strong as the energy contained within. That's like saying like the genie's lamp has the power of the genie, right? Which is not true. And the evidence for this is the case that like He-Man didn't actually destroy the Starseed. Prince Adam did. Like he doesn't have any powers. He's just some dopey dude. So no, I think there's not enough evidence to suggest that He-Man and Prince Adam suddenly has the power of the universe based on this one feat. So I didn't think it was worth, changing the whole episode around. And that's that. Question 6.
Question 6. You put Wonder Woman's strength below She-Ra's because she couldn't move the moon by herself, but she was wearing the bracelets of submission. Would she be stronger than She-Ra once those were off? I don't think you could say for certain.
Yeah, Phantom Falcon, He-Man did not survive the Starseed's explosion exploding his face. If the Starseed did explode, truly, then the whole universe would have been destroyed right then and there, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, you can't use that information that way.
But yeah, it's likely that She-Ra would be stronger without the bracelets of submission. But the strength isn't necessarily...
You mean Wonder Woman?
Wonder Woman would be stronger than her.
It's possible, but we talked about this in the research review. I asked you and the researchers, like, are there any specific circumstances where we can measure this increase in strength? And there really isn't. Wonder Woman has not shown her full potential with the bracelets off. So we can't really use the bracelets as anything more than it's a boost in power. It's a general boost. We can't really say that she's 10 times stronger, 100 times stronger, or whatnot. We just have to associate there's a boost to it. And so, if Wonder Woman were to lose based on her stats without the bracelets, then we would kind of run into a scenario where it's well, wait a minute, could the bracelets change this? And unless Wonder Woman and She-Ra were in this hypothetical circumstance, if Wonder Woman and She-Ra were dead even in all their stats, but Wonder Woman has this ability to boost herself, that gives her the advantage in the fight. But if She-Ra is much stronger and faster and has all the advantages in the fight, and the only thing left is to just determine this bracelet thing, I don't think we would be able to justify the fact that she just gets more powerful, quote unquote, as an advantage, because we don't really know the full scope of that. So
we have to judge by what we've seen a character do, and on top of that, very clear-cut information. So if it was and here, Diana, you will be wearing these bracelets of submission that will limit your power by 30%. Then it's great. Then we can be oh, cool. Well, when they're off, we amplify her by 30%. Easy to go. But they don't do that, and we can't just make wild assumptions. That's not what the show's about.
Yeah, sadly, there's no DBC moment where they're he's 100 times stronger. There's no that. But
yeah, right.
Yeah. So, but honestly, it's not the thing that makes a difference in the fight either. So,
yeah. But and that,
that wraps up our questions for Wonder Woman She-Ra. But one more question: why do we have to wait until August for episode 11? Is this because COVID?
All right. So, in case you haven't heard what we're doing with Death Battle this year, we talked about it at the beginning of the year, but it's been a little bit. So no, this break in the Death Battle season is not because of COVID. This was planned from the very beginning. The general idea being we are doing more episodes of Death Battle this year than we have in the past, 3 or 4 years? This is a 20 episode season. And the way we're doing this is we're basically balancing our animator and editing time around other Rooster Teeth shows. We've got the same, pipeline and teams working on these animations as RWBY and Camp and things like that. So in order to get this many episodes done, while working through the Rooster Teeth production line, this is the best way to do that. And it also just kind of helps, give everybody a little break in between, just to kind of recharge and get ready for the next, set of episodes, as opposed to just barreling through 20 episodes without any sort of reprieve. So, and it works out
not
great
from a
because
writing standpoint.
DBX is here too. Yeah.
Well, I will say that
kind of,
because I know because that's the thing I see a lot. Whenever we put out something else, even Death Battle Cast and blah blah, they're why are you wasting your time on this when you could be giving us more Death Battles? And that's the thing that I want to clarify. There's a lot of different pieces to this production, and just because we're taking a break doesn't mean we're taking an actual break. Scripts were coming in immediately, pretty much after the previous ones. We had maybe 2 weeks of a gap. And it was still being researched.
I mean, there still needs to be time for the research and whatnot, and we don't want to burn out our team. Like, that's also important. But either way, the end result will be more death battles than we've had in a very long time in a single year. So that this is basically the idea. And of course, we got DBX coming back, and it seemed like a perfect setup where DBX could basically take over the channel in between Death Battle, which leads us into what's going on.
I should ask real quick, is my mic still acting funky?
It's way better. That's great.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, broadcast producers love it when they're about to throw a transition, and you go, "Wait, real quick."
Sorry,
Smooth.
Cody
throw wrenches into things.
Oh, don't worry, we've all done it to him.
Cody might have needed the extra time.
So good. That is Death Battle Cast in a nutshell.
So yeah, what's going on?
Let's talk about DBX. It's back, baby.
Whoa. DBX started, yeah. And actually, it should have gone up on YouTube 30 minutes ago, the episode 1, and on roosterteeth.com. It should be on both right now, the .com and on YouTube, so you can go watch it.
I like that you said should.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it, but it should have. I have faith in the programming team. I have faith. What are you doing, Chad? Are you double checking their work? Ridiculous.
It's there.
Ye of little faith. Yeah, it's really awesome. Honestly, the thing I'm most hyped about is just the uptick in quality of just like the host animations and really the entire show. And Billy, not only did you get to provide the voice and we got to spend more time on like honing it in, but you also got to do work on lighting the arena, which this year looks so much better. And like really the whole thing is just like,
dude,
just way better.
We have a Slack. We have a Slack channel, obviously, right? For like for Death Battle and all that stuff. And it cracked me up because Billy was just like, hey, so I don't know if it'll be helpful, but like I went in and just like did a bunch of flybys of the arena, and like it was like fucking incredible. And like no one asked him to do it, but he was just like, just in case, like,
he been very useful for promo stuff.
Well, the compositor for this season, Andrew, who was mentioning that he was gonna need to do some lighting on it, and I was like, well, I'm gonna drop everything I'm doing. I want to light that freaking thing. Let me in there. So yeah. I begged for like 2-3 days. And I had a lot of fun. Yeah.
So Billy, it's been a little while, I think, since you've been on the cast. Do you want to remind people what you do at Rooster Teeth outside of just being the voice of Ringmaster?
Well, normally I'm a lighter compositor over in the regular animation side, so like Ruby Chibi, Red vs. Blue, and stuff like that. So yeah, the chance to do some lighting here on the show that I also voiced was irresistible.
Absolutely. So getting multiple jobs for DBX, essentially, which is awesome.
We're doing that here.
Yeah.
Actually, I've had a chance to work on Death Battles in the last little bit too, which has been super fun. I've loved working with you guys. I was always regretful I didn't have a chance to, so this has been perfect.
Yeah, we've been definitely branching out to more of the RT, like, animators, lighters, layout, everything that's around, and it shows in every episode. It's like, wow, that shit just looks so good. Yeah.
So you mentioned the animation too, Sam. It was like Christopher was like the lead on that for the most part. Like,
yeah, Christopher Block was. A lot of people worked on it though. A lot of the whole 2D team worked on the host animation.
Looks so good.
And yeah, they really kicked it up a notch. It is, especially going back, like this morning we had the like DBX season 1 marathon on RT TV, and the whole time I was watching it, I was just like, wow, this just like this next season just looks so much better. It looks awful watching this old one. You just every time I was watching, I was like, Jesus Christ, how did this pass? Like this year's looks so much better.
Don't hate on Thor versus 100 Pikachus, all right?
You can't. No, not that. I mean, it's just like,
yeah.
I'm just talking about like the tech and arena and stuff we've used for like making. Just go watch the newest episode and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. How much crisper the animation is, how much crisper the environment is, and just how much more fluid and beautiful everything looks in comparison, especially at least when it comes to host stuff. Fighting animations are as well. Like, I mean, even this one, getting to do new stuff with it this year. Like last year, we were pretty limited in like the scope of what we had and what we could do. And this year's like out the gate, we have one from the Source Filmmaker guys, which is a thing we've, you know, literally never done on DBX. And like, yeah, it's a lot of fun to play with and have those opportunities this year.
Just had that little bit of extra time to make things super, super pretty and great.
Mm-hmm. So like what has been the main difference for you, Sam, between this year of DBX and last year? Because last year was when we first introduced Ringmaster and first introduced this change to the DBX format, where it was now based on viewer voting, and we would have 2 endings. Same thing this year. You guys get to vote on who should win, and we will have 2 endings. One is the official ending, right, based on whichever one got the most votes, and the other one is the alternate ending, which is still accessible.
Yeah, and this year, in fact, the alternate endings used to only be accessible to first members. This year, they're just everybody. You just go to the .com and everybody can watch alternate endings, which is extra cool. I mean, honestly, last year we had less time and we spent a good portion of our time in the process of like the new format and like figuring out this character, making a character for the show and all this other stuff. And this year we just got to focus all the time on like polishing it essentially. And that honestly is the main difference. We had more time and we used that time rather than in like concept creation and stuff, which was 100% necessary, obviously. But this year we got to just focus on like polish, making it look good, making it cool, making a lot of things to really making Ringmaster like more in his character and like, you know, honing all that kind of stuff in. And yeah, it shows big time.
Is there any one thing that you really wanted to focus on, or a couple things that you really wanted to focus on improving or adding to this season now that we don't have to spend the most of our time like thinking up how to do it?
I mean, some of that I think for me was like, and this could just because of the position I was in, but like in my brain, I was a lot more focused on the writing side of it. I think that's just because writing most of it, and having help from one of our writers will attack
writing most of it,
having whatever. But yeah, being a writer on every episode and stuff, like kind of just like honing it in. Honing it in, making it a bit more like quick and quippy and fun fast. Like, because last year I felt in some of the episodes there was just a little bit too much like innocuous information for the sake of trying to make it feel a little bit more death battle-y. And this year it's just kind of like, here's the need to know for a character, here's with some funny jokes into the fight. Like, we're just into it, right? I think
finding the proper voice and presentation.
Yeah. The average fight in this season is about the same, if not a little bit longer than last season. And the episodes, though, overall are shorter because we have less, you know, I think Goku Superman from last year was a good thing. I think the host animation is like a minute longer than most of the ones this season, just because we kind of talk about stuff they do. And it's not really necessary information there. And the point of DBX should be like fun and fast and digestible. So like getting to focus in on that, it's like, you get funny jokes. Like, we're not telling you any information anymore unless we think it's like an absolute need to know for the character or funny. There's not like this is information.
You get a very general understanding of who this character is. Haha, fun. Now watch them fight.
If you want to know more, go find out yourself.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, and yeah, I think just focusing on that helps. But honestly, bringing the 2D team in and like having them put a real professional layer, that was something that I did not expect the quality to jump up as much as it did. So obviously, I'm very happy with the outcome of it because it turned out real
All
good.
those little flourishes just add so much. It's amazing.
So many
it was the secondary animation is great on all of it. And it was really cool too, because with DBX, one thing is having the show originate for us, the original thing was like, oh, animators would come to us with a fight idea that we didn't necessarily think like, oh, that's not like what we're going to do for a death battle right now or something like that. But it's not like we don't want to do it. So like we kind of wanted to give animators an opportunity to have like a place that's like, oh, you got this great idea you want to do. Let's do it. Right. And so that kind of idea and mindset definitely came through to even the host animations this year, which it was just like a lot of the direction we gave people was like, it needs to be this. But if you have any ideas, even if they're dumb, whatever, like really whatever you want to do with it, just make sure you have fun and make it cool. Like do what you think is going to be cool for this animation. And that happened a lot. Like even in the intro, there's like this weird pink swirl effect that Chris added that is like just cool. It just works really well, right? And like that was not anything that was in the direction. He was just like, this is cool. And I was like, yeah, that shit is cool. And then we did it. Like so and like having that kind of attitude towards the animation I think helped a lot because like the animators got to toss a lot of personality into them. And you can see it's kind of funny when you get to know the individual people animated each episode, the way they move Ringmaster around. Like one of the animators, Gil, like Gil actually animated, I believe, the dance part of Deadpool Mask, and like he's really good at that kind of like fluid, jumpy, bouncy movement stuff. And you can see the episode of DBX that he animated, his host animation, is like the same stuff. He's got twirls and a hop and like a little like thing where he shows it off, and like it's really cool to see the animators like bring their personality out in that way as well.
Yeah, I mean DBX is great. It's like Death Battle is so serious. I mean, we joke around and we have fun, but the concept of the show is just so serious.
Yeah.
And the DBX
there's a serious underlining to what we're trying to accomplish with it.
Right. And so like DBX is just great. Like it solved a lot of problems for us because like one thing we ask ourselves always is just like, how do we get people more Death Battle, right? Or like more of the stuff that they want to see. And then it also is a great way to test out new animators. It's also a great way to like, you know, we have to be very strict sometimes with the way a Death Battle fight goes, you know, like it is for entertainment, but also like we need to show these specific things. And like, this is like Sam said, it's just more of a playground for our animators to be like, do some cool shit. Like there's no research behind this. Fun. This is purely for fun. Like make something entertaining and cool.
Exactly. Always has been. What about you, Billy? Have you been having fun with this season so far?
I have. It's been great. I love working in the booth with Sam because we kind of try to work things out beforehand, but there's a little bit of ad-libbing back and forth just because sometimes lines don't read off the page the same way that they do once this guy starts shouting. So it's
well, we never do that. Ben and I are very serious in the booth. You can go watch our blooper reels.
Like we're always 1-to-1 on that script. We never go off script. Ever.
We had like on that same example and how time helps is like one of the episodes later. I don't want to spoil the fight, but it involves something from Star Wars, right? In having Billy had like we had extra time, and Billy's a really really big Star Wars fan, so he was able to like give the script to pass through and like you know, kind of. I see all the Mandalorian masks and Stormtrooper masks back there actually. I need to put these guys on so I can actually see. But yeah, it was like that is what time allows. Like Billy had the time to go have a Passover before we went into the booth and like just made that episode better. And yeah, that's kind of how the story of this whole season was like time equal better.
It's been very interesting
time and collaboration.
Way, but
yeah.
So not spoiling anything, but Ben and I are currently recording for the next slew of Death Battle episodes, which has been fun because we're doing it from home. But also Ben and I like we've almost never voiced separately or alone. Like even if one of us has to voice, usually the other person is there because I feel like the episodes come out a lot stronger for that. Like Ben catches me on reads, I catch him, and then we both contribute ideas. And like I think honestly that's a huge key to why Death Battle is entertaining. But so with this new work from home thing, Jeb, our casting director, is now sitting in on these sessions, and he recently got to go through his first Death Battle session, and it was very fun for him because he got to see Ben and I's process, which is I don't want to say not professional because it is for what we do, but
it's very different from what like a Ruby recording session is, or any sort of like typical voice acting session would be.
Right.
So that was a little bit of a shock, I think, to really anybody who ever sits in on one of those sessions. But it's just moving on. DBX, the first episode of DBX is out on YouTube and on roosterteeth.com for you to check out. Please also check out the alternate ending. It is on roosterteeth.com for everybody to see. And there will be a new episode of DBX every week from here for the next, I guess, technically 9 weeks. There are 10 episodes of DBX until August, the first week of August, which is when Death Battle kicks back up. Or maybe the second week of August 9th.
It's like back to school.
Yes.
With Death Battle.
Oh, no. Now we're like semesters. So the next semester of Death Battle begins August 9th. But in the meantime, you can always vote on DBXs and let us know who you think should win and why, which leads us to our community death battle.
Before we go on the show, you know what's crazy? That 40% of men by the age of 40 struggle to get or maintain an erection, which is a whole hell of a lot of people. And it doesn't have to be that way, and you don't have to, use those weird gas station pills or like eat a ton of oysters. No, you can just go to Hims, which is a brand that deals with a lot of male wellness, including stuff like hair loss, skincare, and of course, what we're talking about today, sexual wellness. So Hims connects you with a real licensed doctor and approved FDA pharmaceutical products to treat ED, well-known generic equivalents to name brands that you know, and that helps you, get the prescriptions you need at a very affordable price. And you can see results that other treatments will definitely fall short of. Stop worrying about multiple in-office doctor's visits because Hims is just super painless. And you don't have to get any painful injections like other treatments. It's super easy. You just answer some questions on like a medical history sheet, chat with a doctor for a confidential review, and if you're approved by that doctor, the product's just shipped to your house in a nice discreet package, and then bada bing, bada boom, you fix your problem. Isn't that fantastic? Yeah, and I mean, it's really that simple. So to try Hims today, you can do that, and you can do a free online visit by going to forhims.com/castdd. That's forhims, forhims.com/castdd. forhims.com/castdd. Prescription products are subject to a doctor's approval and require an online consultation with a physician who will determine if the prescription is appropriate. See website for full details and safety information. This could cost hundreds if you went in person to the doctor's office or pharmacy. Remember, that's forhims.com/ed. Help yourself.
Oh, what a transition. Good job, Ben. That was well done.
So community death battles while DBX is in season. Are going to be whatever the next DBX is. And it's already been announced if you've watched the late Vegeta versus Thor. The next DBX...
I still can't believe we're doing this.
...is... Sam, you want to...
Is Mulan versus Lucina, because...
Why Sorry, not? It sounded like you said Xena. He said Lucina from
Lucina,
Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
Fire Emblem, yes.
And, and Smash Brothers.
Yes, Mulan versus Lucina. So you can let us know who you think should win and why. In the meantime, we have some responses about why people voted the way they did for Vegeta versus Thor. So let's go ahead and bring up some of those answers. We're still doing that, right? We're professional here.
No, we are not doing that.
Never mind. We won't bring up any answers. But you can vote for who you think should win Mulan versus Lucina, and let us know why. Like, we still want to know why you think one of them should win over the other. But if you want to see who won the poll last week, it's the same as the victor for the actual DBX. So go ahead and check that out. It's a doozy. It's a pretty fun one.
Yeah, and you can go to roosterteeth.com and you can check out the other ending as well.
I do love that we put the poll results at the end. It's a nice reminder that they're usually pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, God, some of them last season, I expect the same this season, where like a percent, it would be like 51-49. You know, it was crazy. I think one of them was like a decimal point percentage, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they can get pretty close.
Yep. So again, who do you guys think?
Like I mentioned, I think last time we had DBX out. Please don't take these episodes super seriously. They are fan votes. It's for fun. We're just here to have like a really fun, crazy, cool fight, and see what you guys think about it. So that's all. DBX is a fun show.
I'm leaning 100% Lucina just solely because she's very good in Smash, and I like playing her. That is 100%.
That was
my entire grounding is that she's a great Smash character.
I don't see how Mulan will win this, but maybe again, it's for fun, so they want to vote and see her win anyway.
Did Mulan have a TV show? Was there a Mulan TV show?
There were extra movies.
Yeah.
But
if there was a TV show, that's very possible. Oh, she appeared in House of Mouse.
There is a TV show.
Huh. I don't think I knew that.
No, Mulan never received a television series. However, the film's characters have appeared in Disney's House of Mouse and Once Upon a Time.
It has appeared on other TV shows.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, she doesn't have that under her belt, which usually, like, those Disney TV shows.
Oh, yeah.
We've looked into Disney princesses before. We've talked about this. And, like, Rapunzel, there's a Tangled TV show that gives her crazy magic powers.
If
Rapunzel would ever come into Death Battle, a lot of it would be pulled from that show, not the actual movie. So,
for sure.
Poor Mulan doesn't get that advantage, though, which is unfortunate. But either way.
But she is as mysterious as the dark side of the moon. So she's got that going for her.
Wasn't there
as powerful as a great
that tried to analyze that? Like,
Lucina would not be able to handle a musical sequence. Yeah. Had no experience.
How's Lucina going to handle that? I mean, technically, once the musical starts, she loses control over herself and has to get involved in the musical, right? All right. Well, thank you all for joining us on this episode. Oh my gosh. All right. So, go vote. Let us know who you think should win and why, and we will check out that DBX next week. And while I'm talking about voting, go do important votes, for people in your state and in the nation. Coming all the way back around to what I talked about at the beginning. It's one thing I didn't mention that I meant to talk about is that voting is very important for accomplishing change that needs to be made. Yes.
Please vote.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Death Battle Cast. We will see you all next week.